very much for having me. I'm definitely not on my own today, and I'm very happy to introduce the guest for today's session. She's a mother of four. She started out as a developer in the 90s in the telecommunications industry, and she's now the co-founder of the Finnish fintech Enfuse. I'm very happy to welcome on stage Monika Liikamaa.
Thank you.
I think we heard that we need more female entrepreneurs. We now have an example here, but also one way to inspire people to found companies is by giving them the chance to work in startups, experience it firsthand, and then go out and with this expertise found their own startups. And that's what we're talking about today. We're diving deeper into the topic of recruiting diverse and even in tech jobs, and that's what we're focusing on. But what do you think, or what would you say does recruiting for diversity mean at Enfuse?
Well, for us, diversity and inclusion are really imperative because that's the only way to scale and build a global company. So when we started the company, it was me and my co-founder, Denise, and we are also now working as co-CEOs because we together founded the company and we are building it to go global. And especially being in the tech industry, it has been challenging to find diversity. And also if we think about it, we are founded and headquartered in Finland, which is kind of up north from many perspectives. But we decided on a couple of things to make sure that the company would be what it is on track to become. So first of all, we decided that we're going to build a global company. We want to be the best because we believe that when you strive to be the best, not for perfection, but to be the best, that's when you can actually have an impact. So then we decided also that English is the language to use, and then that enabled us to start looking at people with very diverse backgrounds. And also since I'm an old banker, so yes, I used to be a developer in the last millennium, and then I've been building banks. So I've been founding companies twice, once in 2006, and then now in 6 years ago. So we decided that to get more women into what it is a very techy company, because what we do is financial technology. We enable the issuance of money, and we were the first one to put it in the public cloud. But all the things we decided to do and choose was because they served a purpose. And we understand that when people are different, they come from different background, they look different, they are different, that's actually when you get the innovation. Because if everyone was like me, the company wouldn't be where it is. And if everyone were cut from the same mold, we would only get a certain type of services. And that's not how you change the world, you know.
Absolutely. Just to give a bit more context, you said you're, let's say, doing or enabling banking and payments. Let's keep it with that. Don't get too technical, but yeah. You are around 130 people. You're about to scale to 200 end of the year. You raised more than 60 million euros. So just to give a bit more of perspective why we're talking here, and can you give us a bit more numbers, because saying we recruit diverse is easy, but showing off that we actually did is a bit harder. Yeah, so out of the 130 or whatever we are today, because people keep coming in, I keep losing track. There are 20 different nationalities. We are in multiple places, so working remotely has been something that we've done from day one, because just the founders, we live in different places. So Denise lives on the island of Åland and I live on the mainland, so to say. Out of the company, there are currently 42%, I believe, or plus 40% are women. And then in the management positions, we have also closer to 40% are women. And it is, I used to be the person that thought, but in the end of the day, it matters more your background and what you have been doing.
but then realized maybe 10 plus years ago that actually it is more important to be systematically diverse, like focusing on actually hiring people with diverse backgrounds, just because it gives the synergy. So 1 + 1 = more. So that's what we do. We systematically make sure that we have a diverse set of people working in the company and different backgrounds.
So I would say the general opinion is that hiring for background and skill sets and experience is definitely a good thing. And like the way that many startups, I'm from Berlin, and many startups there go this route. If you're not from WHU or all the other great universities.
But you Germans are a bit different, and the French are weirdos too. But no, just kidding.
That's where my question leads to. Is not the weird part, but more the impact part of recruiting diverse. Why does it make such an impact on my company, on my startup, if I recruit diverse? Why should I consider it more and more instead of just looking for the CV?
Yeah, well, I think it's as simple as that. If you take everything, people look the same, they act the same, they have similar backgrounds. Because I do see a lot of startups, and also successful startups, that have been founded by a group of people that have been, in the same school or something. That they are very, very similar, and that will take you sometimes a long way. But if you wanna have the, let's say, the success factors more in your favor, taking different type of people. And here I also think that from our side, I think, I don't remember exact numbers, but I think the average age at Enfuse is around 37 or something like that. So we have old people, and then we have young people also. And that's a challenge, because the older people, like myself, are more used to the hierarchical way of working. And then come the younger people who are like, hey, where's the whatever? And I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong with these people? But having that actually makes us better. It's not easy, but it does make us better. And in the end of the day, it future-proofs the company. Because in the end of the day, the younger generation are still the future. And since I want to build a company that is here also when I retire, I need to have that pain now. And as a mother of 4, I'm used to painful experiences.
But having this chaos in your own company means putting your ego aside as a leader. Because if you're talking about hiring people who are not that similar, it's a challenge to hire them. It's a challenge. It's challenging yourself to, give them the space they need to develop, to challenge your opinion.
Yes.
How do you hold yourself accountable to that?
Yeah, and that's a challenge. Of course, especially when you've been working before in the banking industry, where it's much more hierarchical, and then when you're used to that, just because of the position I hold, my words matter more. But then I think, like my co-founder Denise says, that the good thing with me is that I do change my opinion if someone is good at presenting what they think. But in the end of the day, there's also tools that you need to use. So what we have at Enfuse is that the management team, including myself, we have coaches that coach us not to suck at leadership. So we have this servant leadership methodology that we're using, and that is to exactly do what you said, step back and enable the growth. So be there to coach and support. It's not easy, because when you know the stuff, it would be so much easier to just go in and say, hey, you should do it like this or you should do it like that. But that will never scale. Again, thinking about having the global ambition, I understand that I can't be the bottleneck, which means that I need to make sure that there are people who takes responsibility and are accountable. And you don't get accountability and responsibility by putting titles and money on the table. People need to really, value what they're doing and come to insights on how they will do it. So that's one part. And then also, we talk way too little about mental health. So what we also incorporated at Enfuse is a service where people are not forced, but are allowed to use psychologists, like psychotherapy sessions, just to, and I see that more as a coach. Like in my head is full of ideas, and like there's nothing, my glass is always half full. So in order to structure them in a way that it's focused enough so that we achieve what we need to achieve, I also use the psychologist, because she helps me to focus on the right stuff and not be an asshole. And actually we have a 0 asshole policy at the company. So when we hire people, there are two things that matter. First of all, it's about what you want to come and do, because living in a startup scale up, everything changes all the time. And if you can't manage the fact that everything changes all the time, this is not the place for you, because then you will be unhappy and a lot of weirdo stuff will happen. And then I think it's really important to have an ambition level and not be an asshole. So of course, some days, like what I am as a person, I'm at my best, I'm inspirational and At my worst, I'm a micromanager. So how do we make sure that that doesn't become into being an asshole? So we talk a lot about what is it when you are not that. And it's also important, because then we give words to the events. Well, people argue, but it's always about the stuff, and it's always in the best interest of the company. So it shouldn't be personal, because if it would be personal, then you're an asshole. And then we start putting words on those, so we can actually start cleaning that type of behavior away. Yeah, sorry, I can rant forever on these topics.
We're definitely digging deeper into that in a second. I wanted to say, as my bridge, let's get a bit more actionable. You did already, but still, how usually the filter is experience and what people have done and CV and whatever. And the filter changed over time in the startup ecosystem. It's not the same as in the corporate. But the question is, how do you filter and measure the quality of a candidate if you're looking for ambition or what people want to do, and how do you test it? Like, let's get a bit more actionable there, because if I don't understand how I can change my filter, I cannot recruit more diverse.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I do believe that systematic way of working is the way to scale fast, and since we do money, it has to be right. So what we do is that we start from the fact that what are we needing? So in the end of the day, Enfuse is on a mission, and people help Enfuse reach that mission. Enfuse isn't here for the people, which means that there is a goal that we want to achieve. There are things we need to do, and for those we have roles with expectations and responsibilities. So when we start looking for people to fill those roles, we have this 3-layer interview. It takes time, and the good thing is that as we grow and as we become more known as a company, the amount of inbound applications rise. So of course there needs to be some basic filters, but in the end of the day, it's a lot about the manager, the team, and then the people operations. They spend time on interviewing and having, depending on what position you are applying for, of course, there are some tests. But if I look at what I do mostly, I recruit on the C-level, if you put it like that. Then there is, we use third parties to help us get the right type of people. But before we they interview us, like who are we, what are we doing, what kind of people do we need, and they also help us make sure that we are different.
So it's not about saying, oh, we know everything, we know how we hire. It's also getting help in this process.
Yeah, exactly, because there's a lot of things that we don't know. So we know where we want to go. We have a quite good understanding of where we are, but there's a lot of people out there and companies that can help you bridge the gap. use that help. I mean, if I think about what are the two most important things to be a founder and building a company is that, first of all, you need to have courage. And I don't use the word fail because it's a negative word, and it's not about failing, and it's not about perfection. It's about getting shit done. And then it's really about asking for help. I mean, like, I've asked for help probably every day, but especially in the beginning, there was nothing that I just reach out. And I have to say that I have never received a no, I won't help you. I might have received like, hey, I'm not the right person to help you, but hey, call this person and tell them I told you to call them. And I think those are the two major things. So have courage, just do it. If people don't die, just do it. And then have the courage to ask for help. There's a lot of good help out there.
Absolutely. I think it's very important to understand as a founder that you're not in charge of knowing everything. You're in the business of knowing the right people to ask for and get help from, and manage or give your people the platform to build on top by enabling them. And you can enable with people, network, with resources, with money that you get from investors, and all different type of things. But it's not only you who is in charge of.
No, I like that saying, and I don't remember who said it, but like if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So it's really about try to find people that know stuff you don't know, because the stuff you know. So what? That doesn't scale. So really, it's about getting people, and then that's also, I think, one of the things when it comes to building the company, have the diversity, because if you only hire people from the same backgrounds that know the same things as you are really limiting yourself. And I think one thing, especially for women, to understand that I hear a lot of these things that you should focus on knowing your strengths and weaknesses, and then you should focus on making sure that you're gapping the weaknesses. I think that's actually bullshit, because in the end of the day, if you want to 10x something, your strengths are the things that you should focus on. Because when you have strengths and then you put effort into those, then it becomes 10 times better. But if you have weaknesses, whatever that might be, and if you put a lot of effort on them, you will maybe become a little bit better. But then a little bit better isn't good enough. So I would recommend to quit reading a lot of these self-help weirdo books and just start doing things that you're passionate about.
Good one. We will jump a bit in topics. As we said right now, it's not only about the people. Sometimes to hire people, if you're not having enough revenue, you need money from investors. And there are good investors out there and maybe not so great investors. But the question is how to choose and how to, or what am I looking for? Especially as there are lots of founders listening right now thinking, hey, I need money from investors. I think it's also a very important topic to cover. Who am I taking the money from? Because I have to go a journey of 5 to 10 years with them. If I fail, it might be a bit less time, but we're not thinking about that part. So from your experience of raising a few rounds for Enfuse, what would you say is the investor type that you would want to work with?
Yeah, I think especially in early days when we founded the company, and as I said, we didn't found a fintech startup, we just founded a company that does payments better. So our first 2 years we actually made money, and then we started to grow and scale and needed to get in investors. And I know that investors might be like, no, that's not how it is. I've met around 200 plus fintech specialist VCs, and they have a lot of advice, and they have a lot of opinions and stuff. But in the end of the day, trust yourself. You know best what you are doing, and what you need to get the money to understand is where you're going. So I met once a founder who said like this: there are two types of investors in the board. There are harmful and harmless. So don't think that they will come in and help you build your company. They believe in you, especially in the early days, because it's about the team, and then they are putting money into the company. But in the end of the day, that's what you want. So I would say how to spot an investor. It's like dating. So you spend time, you talk about it, then you get married and write the prenup, which is the shareholder agreement, and then they disappear. And that's a good thing, because I think that's what you need to understand. That's what you want. You don't want them to be around all the time, having a lot of questions. Because I also talked with one other founder, so a good colleague friend from Finland, Volt founder Mikki Kuusi, and he said that you shouldn't have board meetings more than 4 times a year, because it takes a week at least to prepare. So if you have a board meeting once a month, it's 1 week of that month when you could actually be doing stuff that you will be just reporting on what you already did. So I think those are the things that if I would have gotten advice in the early days, I think I would have told myself that don't expect someone as an investor to come and have a lot of, how should I say, useful advice. Of course they have. I'm a little bit, maybe a little bit over exaggerating, but it's about the people. It's always about the people. Money is money, but it's about the people.
And regarding the board meetings, it's not only you who is preparing, it's the whole leadership team. So
yeah,
because
exactly.
They have to report, and
yes.
That means the company is basically like not working.
Exactly. So you're like halting a week of getting shit done and just reporting on stuff you already did. So I think those are the things that, especially in the beginning. But then what we did is that we took in an advisory board, and that's different. So when we have the actual board with the investors, they are there to protect their investment. So they want to understand, like, are you doing what you said that you would be doing, and blah, blah, blah. But it's not like very inspiring meetings, because you're working with the shit all the time. So you know it. So it's like, it's a bit weird. You're reporting kind of to yourself. But then we took in an advisory board. And in the advisory board, we have people from different areas with different backgrounds in different locations, because there are a lot of good people who have done the founder journey, who have been in various places, who still have energy and life in them that you can have and give the insight. So I really think that an advisory board is a good thing. And then an advisory board where you pay them money because they are spending time, but you don't pay them equity. Because as soon as company shares are on the table, the game changes, and then people still start playing their own game. And
they're playing politics then, because they need their investment to grow and not the founder side. They take the investor role instead of the founder
and what
role.
we want the advisory board to be is a group of people that challenge us, that makes us see things that we don't see. And I think that's why it is good to have an advisory board and not to pay them in equity.
Definitely a different view from many people. Many are going out there and giving up virtual shares and employee share options very soon for advisors.
Yeah.
So definitely a good thing to have in mind. As in dating, there might be also toxic traits that you can look out for to decide who not to work with. So what kind of, we don't name investors, but what kind of toxic traits did you discover and would stay away if you're looking for funding now?
Yeah, we actually open up the dialogue with, like, and pardon my French, like, we don't want to work with dicks. And then we decided that's a bit too racist, so let's do the asshole, because everyone has one. So that's what we said to the investors also, and we met that type of investor. So when we met especially in the A round, we met these growth funds and investors. And I remember once me and Denise we were pitching and going into tech, and then this older gentleman looked at me and said, boy, girls, you know, I've been doing this for 30 years and that's not how it's going to work. And then I looked at Denise, and she is younger than me, and she trains and all that, so she needs food. And I was like, lunchtime? And she said, yes, and then we left. So, I mean, you need to also know what you don't want. And for us also, the money is important, that you have an idea and think about it also. If you have the luxury of thinking about it from like, do you want this investor to be part of the journey of your company? Because there are also, of course, shady investors, especially living in these times. I think we see that even more. So be mindful, but then in the end of the day, you need money to survive. Like cash is oxygen. So sometimes you need to maybe take a little bit money. But here, be mindful, and it has to click with the investors, and then you want them to leave you alone.
Do reference calls, as you do for your applicants. Do reference calls with other founders on the VCs. How do they behave after they invested, and then you get a better understanding. That helps a lot to understand if that's what you want or not. Yeah,
and that's easy. Like just Google it up and then ask, because of course, if you ask the investors for reference call, they will pitch you the ones that they want you to talk to, but you know their portfolio, so it's just to reach out. As I said, just reach out and call and say, hey, I have a couple of questions. Can I talk to you? And then just talk like how are they meetings? What are they expecting? And when things get rough, how do they help you? Because what we saw, of course, I remember when COVID hit, then I was like, okay, this is things that I can't impact. If we now go bust, then we did whatever we could, but we actually grew because we do payments, so the contactless payments, etc. grew. So we grew during COVID, and then we were like finally coming out of COVID. Finland won the Olympic gold in ice hockey against Russia, and 2 days later, the war in Ukraine started. I was like, fuck, okay, like when does this end? And again, things are evolving, and I think as us Finns are we are deemed the happiest nation in the world, but we are very, how should I say, realistic about things. So I'm very pragmatic. So I think that helps also. So don't start spending then the money on trips and parties and alcohol because
happens more often than you think.
Yeah.
In regards of the time, I would say thank you very much. Meet us wherever you find us on the conference and ask questions if you have.
Yes.
Monika, thank you so much. Thank you, Female Founders and LTST Lead Today, Shape Tomorrow. LTST, sorry, Lead Today, Shape Tomorrow. Yeah. And have a great conference.
Yeah, thank you.